Today, Gaming America is speaking with Virginia McDowell, a gaming industry veteran who sits on the board of both Entain and Global Gaming Women. Thank you for speaking with us today, Virginia.
Good morning. How are you, Cameron?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
So what are we talking about today?
Right. So my first question is actually sort of about your own career, just to start off with. If you could just sort of run through, what you've done in the gaming industry and how you've arrived at these sorts of important positions after years spent in gaming.
So I'm actually a reporter by trade. My degree is in journalism. I started working in the media in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the USA, in let's say the late 1970s. It was about the time that gaming had been legalized in a state for the first time outside of Nevada, legalized in New Jersey. And so a lot of the news stories that I was working on actually had something to do with gaming. And I was just absolutely fascinated by it. And when I had the opportunity to get into an entry level position in the gaming industry, early in the gaming industry in Atlantic City, I went to work for Bally's Park Place, which was only the third casino to open after the referendum that legalized casinos. And I loved it. It was a great industry. It was fast. There was an opportunity to learn many things. And if you worked hard and you showed initiative, there was also the opportunity to get promoted. And as a result, I had the opportunity to run many departments in Atlantic City. I was recruited as part of a team in 1997 to go to the Midwest. This is when riverboat gaming, regional gaming, was starting to expand. I went to the Midwest to work for Argosy Gaming Company, which was headquartered in Alton, Illinois, near St. Louis. And I worked at Argosy until it was acquired by Penn National Gaming in 2005. Then went to work for Trump Entertainment Resorts. That was the only publicly traded piece of Trump's empire. I worked there until 2007 when I was recruited to become the president and chief operating officer of Isle of Capri Casinos. So I went to Isle of Capri in 2007 as the president and COO, and in 2011, I was promoted to chief executive officer. While I was at Isle, I founded Global Gaming Women twice, once as an initiative of the American Gaming Association, where I sat on the board. And the second, when I retired in 2016, I went to the AGA and said, I think GGW would be better as a nonprofit. They agreed. And so I spun it off a second time as a co-founder as a nonprofit. After I retired, I was recruited to go on the board of GVC, which was headquartered in London, which we now know as Entain. And that's where I am today.
Cool. That's quite a career. So I guess I have two lines of questioning for you. One is about in your capacity as on the board of Entain. I understand you sort of head up their ESG, environmental, social governance program. And then after that, we talk about GGW. So first, at Entain, what can a company like Entain, in Entain's position, do to be more ESG compliant?
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but we have for the last 2 years put on pretty much a half-day program called Entain Sustain. Our entire focus as a company is on sustainability. Our CEO, Jette Nygaard Andersen, at the point that she was appointed to the position of CEO, she put her stake in the ground and said sustainability is going to literally impact every single thing that we do as a company going forward. So we put a sustainability charter in place, and the sustainability charter is only four things, but when you think about the impact that they have, they're huge. Number one is that we have an exclusive focus on regulated markets. The second is that we are going to continue to take the lead on responsible gaming. We already were doing that, and now what we're doing through our Changing for the Better program and through our ARC advanced responsibility and care program, we're leading the industry across the world on this, to pursue the highest standards of corporate governance and then to invest in our people and communities.
Cool. How about sort of the gaming industry as a whole? Do you think it's lacking in ESG considerations? Do you think it could be more responsible in this area?
It's an interesting question, Cameron, because in the time period that I have been on the Entain board, and in 2023, it'll be 5 years. We went from corporate social responsibility, which is what it used to be called, and we evolved into ESG. And I think it's interesting just if you look at that evolution, because CSR was just, in many cases, just a check the box, do the right thing. We're making sure for investors and for regulators that we have pieces in place, that make sure that as a company we are doing the right thing. ESG is entirely different. ESG, as we did at Entain, can be a complete change as it relates to sustainability. And I think one of the pieces of that obviously is environmental. Environmental was really never a part of CSR back in the day. One of the focuses is environmental. And then diversity, equity, and inclusion is a huge piece of what we are doing and Entain going forward. That used to be kind of a part of CSR. But then the governance piece, which is also huge. And again, if you go back to our sustainability charter, our number one item on the charter is, pursuing licenses in regulated markets. So I think that we have the right focus on it. Our ESG remit is huge. We have a tremendous group of professionals that are dedicated to this. We have completely changed our organization in order to make sure that we can adhere to and abide by the very strict ESG principles that we've set. Does every company in the world do this? No. Do I believe that they should? Yes. And one of the reasons why is that we are continuing to see an increase in ESG investors. And so when you look at, who our shareholders are, there are many of them that are making decisions, investment decisions. There are funds that are making investment decisions based on companies that actually understand the importance of ESG.
Sure. Is there an area under the ESG umbrella that you'd like to sort of grow or increase focus on in the coming year?
Well, I was one of the speakers. I was a keynote speaker at Entain Sustain, and saw our agenda in advance. Obviously, I did it remotely, but we had several panel discussions, and I will tell you that those panel discussions were fantastic. I obviously know what we're doing as far as ESG is concerned, but to have professionals from all different areas of the gaming industry, kind of talk about what they are doing is fantastic. And one of the things that I was really impressed with is our continuing focus on DEI. We are, I believe, one of the only gaming companies of our size in the world that have a female CEO. And so there is a focus within the organization to make sure that DEI is at the core of what we do. But when you look at the I will call it creativity of the things that we're doing, one of the things that we announced at Entain Sustain last week was a new partnership with McLaren Racing. And so we have been working for several years to make sure that we are training women to enter the tech industry. And we've had a partnership with Girls Who Code for quite some time. And that addresses, the women, younger women that are in high school or in college who are looking to enter the tech industry and need a path forward. And that's great. That's recruiting at that level. But what we're seeing after the pandemic is that we have lost an entire generation of women in the workforce. And it's not getting better. I mean, the problem is that we're still dealing with the effects of a global pandemic right now. And there are women who have had to leave the workforce to stay home and take care of their children, or who have lost jobs as a result of the pandemic that they can't return to. And there is now a need to bring those women back into the workforce. And how do you do that? Well, one of the ways that you do it is to reskill them. And so
Mhm.
the partnership that we're doing with McLaren is specifically to reskill. And I think that that's huge because now you're sitting there and saying, we're going to recruit essentially from the younger generation by working with girls who code, but the type of programs, the creativity of the programs that we're putting in place with a company like huge company like McLaren to help reskill, I think is, something that's kind of groundbreaking in our industry.
Sure. I didn't realize that the pandemic had so adversely affected the female workforce. It's news to me.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, it was, and it was global, when
Mhm.
you two parents, who now, for the most part had to work from home and you had to homeschool your kids. One parent, usually is the one that had to sit there and make sure the lessons got done and so on and so forth. We were doing research at Entain, relatively early into the pandemic, probably in late 1920 or 2020. And what we were finding is that many of our female workers globally, and so Entain operates on 5 continents and I think 30 countries now, is the women were working during the day. And so during the school day, when they had to, they would be with their children, they would put the 8 hour school day in, and then they would do their job for 8 hours at night.
Yeah.
And right. and so and so these women were putting in 16-hour days, and that doesn't include anything else that you have to do
Yeah.
in your life, and that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, we lost a generation of women, and we've got to figure out how to get them back.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Sounds like a very worthy measure. Uh, Moving on slightly to Global Gaming Women, this sort of entity you've founded or helped found. I was wondering, could you just describe what it is and what its goals are?
Sure. Global Gaming Women is an organization whose mission is to build the next generation of female leaders in the gaming industry. We founded it as Global Gaming Women because that was our original name, although we truly weren't global until the last few years. One of the things that we realized when we first started GGW in 2011, and then when we relaunched it again, is women lacked confidence and women lacked education. And in many cases, confidence is something that is very, very hard to get. There's a great book called The Confidence Code that talks about that. But sometimes confidence comes from education and from mentoring and from being able to have conversations with other women about your professional and personal life. And so we put in place, number one, a comprehensive education program. It's an educational pyramid that has classes that we do at the entry level for women that are looking to take their first step into management, and it goes all the way up to our W program, which is for women who are in director programs, vice president programs, and we teach much more complicated sessions that deal with things like resolution or public speaking. And so we tailor that to the level of the woman, all the way from entry level up to the highest level of the industry. In addition, we have a mentoring committee that is responsible for our lean in circles. Are you familiar with lean in?
Yes.
Okay, so we're doing, and for those who aren't, lean in circles were founded by Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, that women need to lean into each other. And it is a group of 10 women who are brought together at the same place in their career, to have conversations about things. And we like to say it's your own personal board of directors. So if you if you have a problem and you need to, something happened in the workforce, whatever it might be, you bring it to your own personal board of directors. And we have found that that dramatically increases confidence in women,
Hmm.
because they know that their struggles are not only their struggles, and they know that they have people to talk to. And so we have now taken our lean in circles globally. And much of what we have been able to do from a digital perspective is as a result of the pandemic. So just like everybody else, we were forced to pivot. So we took a lot of our educational program and then added a lot of other great digital content, and made it available, on the web. So we're now able to reach women all throughout the world.
Cool. I was wondering, you've been in the gaming industry since the late 70s, early 80s. How has the sort of status of women evolved in over those decades?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that I have talked about recently, in some speeches, is that I started in Atlantic City at a time and a place where there was unlimited opportunity.
Hmm.
And because the Atlantic City gaming industry was growing so quickly and there was such a need for talent, they were, pretty much gender blind. And so a lot of the women who are in senior positions across the gaming company in the US, and I know a few, across, who started in the US across the world, um, we started in a time and place where they really didn't look at your gender. And so it was a great launch for our career. I think that when you look across the gaming industry, it has traditionally been a male industry. It was coming out of Las Vegas. There was a great deal of misogyny in Las Vegas, just because they believed that, there was no place for a woman in these roles. And I think that as you kind of look through the evolution of the gaming industry, and as women like me, started taking senior positions, it made it more obvious to other women that it was possible. And then it kind of falls to the companies, how do they approach this? And that is pretty much a C-suite thing. Who's sitting in the corner office and making a determination, about who they're going to hire and what their hiring practices are going to be. So it has gotten better in the 40 years that I have been in the industry. And there are many companies that we work with at Global Gaming Women, who want to do the right thing, who actually want to bring more women into the workforce. Our industry is 50% women to begin with, but we're primarily, an entertainment service industry. And so a lot of those jobs, those customer facing jobs, are frontline jobs. We've got to get the women into the supervisory positions that they can move up the ranks. And that's one of the things that we see at Global Gaming Women, that the problem is that women get stuck in companies, because there are not programs that help them to advance, into senior management ranks. And it's better than it was, but we know that we can do much better.
So it's not so much, I mean, maybe a bit of misogynistic resistance, but it's more about training the women to move up.
I kind of lost my train of thought there for a minute. What I was saying is there's
Mm.
companies that want to do the right thing but don't know
Yeah.
how.
Okay.
And so they'll come to us and they'll basically say, there's a very big gaming company that I was asked to, when I was president of Global Gaming Women about 5 years ago. A very big gaming company that you would know came to me, and said, "We have a problem. We have a problem that we have no, senior women that run our property, senior women that are general managers, senior women in our corporate workforce, and we don't know what to do."
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, what are you thinking?" And they said, "Well, we're going to start a program." Well, that's great, but if your programs don't actually have components that are actionable, that you can sit there and say, we're going to say we want to have 30% women, in our senior management ranks, or 30% women on our board, that which gets measured gets managed. And so just sitting there and saying we're going to introduce a program. And so they asked me to come speak to their first program. And it was in Las Vegas, and there was about, I don't know, 40 or 50 women that were in the room. They actually put a nice program together. I was the keynote speaker. And I opened it up for questions and answers afterwards. And these women were fantastic. I mean, they were absolutely fantastic. And they had such a thirst for knowledge, and they wanted to know what they could do to advance their careers. And I went back to the CEO of the company, and I said, you have these women in your organization. They're there. I just met them. Take them, nurture them, train them, give them an opportunity to help you and to make you a better company. And they did. They actually went out and hired consultants to build programs that brought that group of women up through the organization. So I think in some cases that's the problem. It's not that companies don't care. It's just that they just don't know how to do it. And, as we have looked at this, it goes back as far as unconscious bias in job descriptions, in the hiring process. You really have to look at your entire organization top to bottom and say, are we doing the right things to get the right candidates in the pool? If you don't get the right candidates in the consideration pool, then women and minorities, they just don't advance. If they're not in your organization to begin with, then you can't. If you haven't hired them, then you can't advance them.
Right. For my last question, I wanted to ask if global gaming women sort of achieves what it has set out to achieve, what will the gaming industry look like in 5-10 years time?
Well, again, great question. I see a lot of quotas right now. I see a lot of we need to have X number of percentage, X number of percentage. We see a lot of quotas, and I have mixed feelings about quotas. Because quotas, again, that which gets measured gets managed, and quotas are good because they force you to pay attention to things. The problem with quotas is that if the only thing that you're doing, it's just kind of like standardized testing. If the only thing that you're doing is working to the quota, and you're putting women or minorities into positions where they can't be successful just to sit there and check the box and fill a quota, you're not helping anyone. And so the objective should be that you build companies, again, that look at hiring from the ground up and that have programs in place where you sit there and you don't even have to have these conversations anymore, Cameron. And I watch interviews that women do who are put into senior positions, presidents of big Las Vegas casinos, or into CEO roles, and they're asked the question, what this is great, you're wonderful, what are you going to, and the women say it'll be great when we don't have to answer the question about why we're the only women in our position anymore. That's what I'd love to say. I'd love to say where we get to the point where it's not anything unusual that women are essentially equal in the industry. I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it best when she was talking about the Supreme Court, and they were talking about adding women to the Supreme Court, and she said, well, she was asked the question, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? And she said, when there are 9.
Yeah. That's why at G2E I interviewed Cassie Stratford, who's sort of what your role was 5 years ago, I believe, is what she does now.
Yes, Cassie is now the president of GGW. She's doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and she basically said our goal is to not have to exist anymore for global gaming women.
She said it better than I did. Our goal is that we don't have to exist.
Anyway, thank you so much for speaking with Gaming America. It's been a great time talking with you.
Thank you, Cameron.
Yeah, this has been Virginia McDowell. Thank you.